So, first thing I'd like to say is we are really thrilled that Haley's now in Lethbridge. Uh, so, so as farmers, please help her out when she says, I need a field to do wireworm or I need a field to do cereal leaf beetle, because that research is going to directly benefit you. So pay attention, and if you've got that issue, please help her out because she's young, she's keen, and we've doubled our insect capability in crops in southern Alberta. That's awesome. It really is awesome. So she's busy enough. So I was going to cover mostly wheat stem sawfly, and I will take questions on wheat midge if you have them. I think wheat midge was on the agenda. But I wanted to deal with wheat stem sawfly for one specific reason is this is the perfect kind of year for wheat stem sawfly to make a resurgence. Okay, short season where the parasitoids don't make a second generation, and the really early harvest. And this is not new research. This is actually research done here at Lethbridge back in the 50s. And it still holds true that when we get a series of early harvests, our wheat stem sawfly numbers climb. And when we get a series of years where we're harvesting in September, our wheat stem sawfly numbers tend to drop off. And it seems to be tracking the second generation of the parasitoids. If the second generation is successful, which happens in August, then the numbers go down. If it's not successful, they come out and all the sawfly are already down, cut the stems and down, then they're wasted and we don't see that buildup. So it's not as simple as that, unfortunately, but this is nearly the perfect year for wheat stem sawfly. And Haley had live insects. I went out and I did some sweeps. All of the sawfly are now dead. They don't like this heat, but they've laid their eggs, and they're busy burrowing around. I'm going to pass these around. In each I've got 6 of the same thing. So in each box, maybe you'll pass those out for me, Brian, please. Yeah. Kind sir.
Got it.
You got them?
Yeah.
Okay. Each box has a wheat stem sawfly and a parasitoid. So, and this is a big deal. The parasitoid, this is what I did my master's research on, and the parasitoid is capable of completely wiping out populations. I had parasitism levels over 50% in my research, but the papers will talk about 75 and 80% parasitism levels. So it's when they're successful. And how important is that second generation? About a 10-fold increase in the Bracon cephi, and from the first generation to the second. So it is a big deal. You do that for a few years, and the sawflies seem to go away. So, okay.
So you're saying that this year is a good year for the second generation to happen?
This year is a good year for the sawfly because the second generation will get stranded. So those little orange wasps will come out, but the sawfly will already be down in the bottom of the stem, cut the wheat, and it's over. They're not going to find them to parasitize them. So
does that mean next year bodes not well either?
Next year, what we're going to see is an increase in the population, yeah. More successful sawfly this year, but sawfly aren't a one-year cycle. Like, it takes several years for them to build up. But anybody here from Willow Creek? Dave? Guess what? We have a population that's in the south of Claresholm, to the east, into Lethbridge County, that has been building up, and there's some very high numbers in that little pocket. We also have a population we're watching west of Brooks, and there's always sawfly down at Foremost. So we have a base population that could just see a resurgence.
Does the population move like a bubble across the province? Yeah. Or is it just pops up here and then disappears here?
Yeah, it seems to be more localized. They're not great flyers. So they're for a guy that knows how to find sawfly, you can always find sawfly, right? They're always there. It's just at really, really low levels. And when we get a series of dry early harvests, then the numbers jump and they start to come up. So 1 year won't make the population. Over at Claire's home it will. So what do you do about wheat stem sawfly?
Spray.
Solid stem.
Spray.
Solid stem.
Who's with Ken? And who's with Brian? Okay, solid stem wheat, absolutely. What's the problem with solid stem wheat right now?
There's no CWRS variety registered.
Yeah, now I agree with you. Yeah, very good.
That's why you have to spray.
Spraying doesn't work.
Spraying doesn't work. Thanks, Ken. I'm on Ken's side today, mostly.
Who are you working
So,
for?
yeah. He's got shares in, no. So, actually, every generation of insecticide has been tested, and we have not yet found an insecticidal option that works for wheat stem sawfly. So, don't spray. Solid stem wheat. What else can you do? Swath. What does swathing do for you?
Cut your stubble high.
He read my paper. That's beer time, right? Yeah.
Might as well just go back.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Guess where the parasitoid, that little wasp, overwinters?
Higher.
It overwinters in your wheat stems. Okay. So if you're cutting your crop really low, you're cutting off where the overwintering habitat of that parasitoid, and guess what? It goes through the combine, and who has straw come out whole anymore? We chop it all to bits, right? And spread it out. So every straw that goes through the combine is killing your parasitoids.
So a stripper header would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Actually, down at Foremost, when they're in the worst of the sawfly trouble, the guys with stripper headers were having less trouble with sawfly. Absolutely. Absolutely right. Yeah, we did find it in our surveys too, yeah. So interesting that we found sawfly a couple years ago all the way up to almost Camrose. And then with the wet couple years, they've backed off. It's from central Alberta, so yeah.
You get them with rotation?
Very good point. Rotation, absolutely, because what do they get into? Wheat. Yeah. A little bit into barley, but mostly wheat. Not winter wheat in Alberta, but they get into winter wheat in Montana. So that's an interesting distinction. If we grew lots of winter wheat, they'd get into winter wheat here too. They'd adapt to it. But canola, flax, peas, lentils, all are non-host crops. So less wheat, less sawfly.
How far can they fly?
How far can they fly? They're not what we consider good flyers, but they're going to find a wheat field within a couple miles, right? So, yeah. So draw a circle around last year's wheat. There's always wheat within a couple miles, right? So, yeah. But we have guys over in that Willow Creek area that say, we're just not growing wheat until this is over. So they're going to grow peas and lentils and canola, barley. Barley doesn't look so good this year, though. Sorry.
Neither does wheat either.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay. So, absolutely, even though there isn't a spray option, there's a lot of things we can do. Rotation, higher stubble, those of you who are still fallowing, chem fallow is perfect. Don't work it, because guess where your parasitoid's hanging out? Right up until the end of June. So if you work it down, you work that parasitoid down, and it can't get out of the soil. So there's actually a paper on that out of Montana.
Did I just hear you say it's better to till than to
Not till.
not till?
You got to keep up here, Claire.
Just the 8.
Yeah, you stand up maybe. No, I'm sorry, that's mean. Okay, so there are a number of things we can do, and if you're fighting with it, I'm more than willing to, work out a plan with you. One of the interesting things my brothers did, is a really crazy idea, but they actually put a whole field of mustard in next to where their worst sawfly was, but they planted on the outside, they planted oats. Now, why oats? Anybody know the answer to this? Ken?
Stems are too big and the sawfly don't really
No.
go after them.
No, close. Good try, though. Oats is a non-host. So, well, not exactly. So they will lay eggs because it's a grass. They recognize it as a grass to lay eggs in, but the larvae don't survive. So there's something about oats. So my brothers planted oats on the outside of a mustard field, and the sawflies stayed home. They didn't go to their next wheat field. They stayed there, laid their eggs, and all died. And they pretty much wiped out a population doing that. So those of you who are farming big blocks, right? You own a couple townships, and you're farming a couple townships. Move your crops around, right? All.
Management, I think I've heard on the radio.
What's that?
That's Meers management.
Meers management, yeah. My brothers actually did this. They farmed whole blocks into non-host crops. A whole block, all their land in one area, all peas. And then they moved that around. And because there's no wheat, there's no sawfly, and they pretty much wiped them out, doing that and some trap crops. So there's things we can do even though we can't spray. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my thing on sawfly. And any questions? Yes.
So come October, when people are making their cropping decisions for next year,
No wheat.
Dave's going out of wheat.
and they need to rotate out of barley, is there where can they get information on the wheat stem sawfly population in their neighborhood?
Sure, yeah, we do an annual survey. So we go through each county and we'll count the sawfly in 5 to 6 fields in each county. And then we publish a forecast for the next year based on the survey. And how we do the survey is really fun if anybody wants to volunteer. We actually just take a meter of row and we count how many stems are cut and how many are entire. That's the survey. It's highly technical. We did last year, we did about 80 fields across southern Alberta. Pardon me?
After harvest?
After harvest, yeah. So if you see somebody out there pulling up your wheat stubble, it's probably me or my technician.
Don't shoot them.
Don't shoot them. Ask questions first, please. Well, I'll always answer questions. But yes, and Brian's promising me he's linking our page to the Alberta wheat page. So if you can't find me buried in Alberta Agriculture's website, it'll be on a link to it on Alberta wheat. So there's a plug. Free.
Thank you.
Free.
Yep.
Now you're buying beer, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Gary
good.
owes you a beer.
Yeah, got it. Okay, any questions? Any questions on wheat midge? I don't see wheat midge as a big issue in southern Alberta. We also survey that, and we occasionally find some. It's a big deal if you're farming up east of Edmonton this year. A lot of guys spraying up there, a lot of guys spraying too late. A lot of guys are going to give up 15 to 20% of their yields this year because they didn't learn soon enough. So we'll be answering a lot of questions on that over the winter and talking about the SM1 gene and variety tolerance and that stuff. So, yeah.
How tall should you leave your stubble?
My research is really clear, and thank you for the question. The bottom third of the stem. So if you got a 3-foot high wheat, leave a foot. If you got 24 inches, then you'll leave 8 inches, right? The bottom third is the critical habitat. So, yeah, great question. And that's exactly the question that my master's answered. So I'll buy you a beer. Okay. So the bottom third, whatever it would be. So, okay.
Join me in thanking Scott and Haley.
Yes. Yes, Haley.